So we'll get into more of that at a later date, but more focusing today on the receiver room. And I think that it's very obvious that I am not one of those people who are like, I like this class, so we'll get a third round guy. Look at all the production out of the fourth and fifth round you can get with Puka Nacua. And, we're going to be the one that gets that this year. And, I'm looking really good. I think we can score, at 99, I think we can get a top guy. Like, look, those are all possibilities, but I think you need to go out and hedge your bet and minimize your risk and take a guy fairly early. The only reason I don't want one at 28 is if you for sure have somebody on your board that you need to fill a hole with, and then guarantee me you're taking one in the second, fine, because there is talent. But beyond that, I get squirrely. Like, I need you to add a top flight receiver, and I also need you to do it in free agency. I think the team that was missing, and even in the playoffs with Davis out, I think they needed that vet receiver. Their two players, Hardy and Sherfield, just didn't get it done. I think you need a tick better than that, Kevin. I think you need to go one notch above that. Would you agree with that statement, or are you full on rookies?
Oh, for sure. That's why I'm thinking that you have to address it in free agency and the draft. Now, I will say, I've done some preliminary research because one of my coping mechanisms after the Bills loss was, let me go on Spot Track. Let's go look at the free agency list because I want to make myself feel better and tell myself that the Bills are signing Michael Pittman. They're not going to, I don't think. I know he trains with Josh Allen, so that's a possibility. But, this is interesting because we could talk about this for a little bit as well, because Chris Trapasso had Laviska Shenault as his top option in free agency. And I don't agree with that. But his second and third options were my first and second, Noah Brown and Kendrick Bourne. Because for the reasons that we just laid out, I don't think the Bills are going to have a lot of money to work with, first of all. And second of all, how they address free agency determines how they address the draft. Because if you go out and sign someone like Michael Pittman, you are giving a big contract, a big term, and a lot of financial, whatever it's called. You're putting a lot of finances into that investment. Yeah, thank you. So you're investing a lot in that player, which means you're probably not going to draft one early. So if they sign someone like a Mike Evans or a Michael Pittman, that means they might draft defense again, because why would you spend all that capital on a first-round pick? So that's why I think that I want to see them go be the bargain bin, not necessarily Trent Sherfield, Deontay Hardy, a tick above. That's what I'm saying. Kendrick Bourne, Noah Brown, veterans, stretch the field vertically. And that means that, A, you did fill those holes, but based on the BPA, best player available, you can still go draft that wide receiver one without feeling that you put too much capital into that position.
I think those are some interesting names. I would go I think Noah Brown's in the right range. Kendrick Bourne just has not put together. He's had some good moments. I just don't know, if he really, I would go one slight tick above that. So before you get into I just don't think they can play in the Curtis Samuel. I've seen Curtis Samuel float around a lot. He's still at a projection of 11 million. Maybe he'll get a tick less than that, but I am nowhere near that for him. I'm sorry. I think he's a nice player, could be nice. He's had some moments. He's still only getting 500-600 yards. This isn't a situation where you're getting a Pittman. I'm out on him at that price. I'm even more out on him than I am Gabe Davis or Calvin Ridley or Pittman. I'm out on that range of player, like Tyler Boyd, for instance, or I just don't think that's the right style of player. That 9 to 12 million, you might as well get a guy that's better than that if you're going to spend that type of money, unless they really aren't going to cost money. Their market is really sunk. Josh Reynolds is interesting to me. You kind of he was really good all year. Had a couple goofy plays there in the NFC Championship game, but he was really fairly solid this season, and I think he'll cost a tick less than Curtis Samuel. And he played a little bit better to me than a Noah Brown. 608 yards, 5 touchdowns. You look at Odell Beckham Jr., what's going to happen with him? He was an interesting one that this team has courted in the past and likes. What did he do for himself? Could he finally see himself onto the Bills? That's an interesting discussion of a guy that you could get at this stage finally, that yes, he made about 15 million AAV last year. Is he more now in that 7 range? Where is he? Because that becomes interesting there. I like KJ Osborne a lot, but he's younger, and his projection, he had a really good time filling in for Jefferson. I think that with his age, he's going to get a tick too much, but then you kind of wind up in that Darnell Mooney range. So he's kind of interesting, take a lot of snaps, only had 414 yards and 1 touchdown this year. Projected probably for more than you'd like. So like at some point you got to land somewhere. And that's what's interesting about this free agency class, because to me it's better than usual. Like you got guys like Mike Evans, and you're probably going to have a cap casualty in Keenan Allen. What happens with him? And you have just so much talent sitting at the top of this board: Pittman, Calvin Ridley, Gabe Davis, T. Higgins, than you normally do. Like those guys, like the best player usually is like one Christian Kirk and not much else, like Alan Lazard. Like there's not much else there. So those are a lot of good options. So that's maybe like Marquise Brown's another one. Like he is a pure scheme fit. Like why wouldn't I pay for Marquise Brown over some of those names like KJ Osborne or some of those guys that I think are going to get a little bit more than they should, like Mooney. Like I don't really know where the difference is there between some of those guys. And even Josh Reynolds, Curtis Samuel, like at some point it's like, I mean, Marquise Brown's just better and would do a lot more for this offense, in my opinion. These guys can, with the cap the way it is and these winning teams, like somebody's going to be left out in musical chairs. And that's really where I'm focusing on, like a Marquise Brown, to really watch his market. And if he's one that gets paid, for instance, okay, let me continue to watch the market. What's going on with OBJ? What's going on with Josh Reynolds, Curtis Samuel? Where are those guys going to end up? Because I'm really focusing Mooney, because I'm really focusing Tyler Boyd, Keenan Allen. If he gets cut, he's owed a lot of money. So the Chargers can say whatever they want about keeping him. Even if it's not the Bills' number one option, he's going to play a role in where he goes, thus opening up another receiver. But I think that there could be some really solid interest if he's released, and the Bills could really decide that they want to go that route. The Chargers saved $23 million letting him go. We talked about Diggs' 13. It's about double that. So it's tough to me to think that he's going to be on the roster at $34 million. They'd have to basically give him a pretty sizable extension at 32 years old in order to lower that cap hit, give him enough years. I guess that could be in the card, but they're a team that's $60 million over as well. I think I see him hitting free agency. So are you still feeling like you want to be more in that Kendrick Bourne range, or is one of those names like maybe I want to entertain that if we could get there?
I don't want to lock into a specific player just yet, but I do want to lock into a specific price range, because I think anywhere between 4 and 8 million is what we're looking at. Maybe even 5 to 9, somewhere within that range. Because if you look at last year's free agency class, Trent Sherfield and Deontay Hardy, they were in that $2 to $4 million range. And that was clearly not enough, as we saw in the divisional round. But I think it's too much if you're going double digits. And that's why I said even 8 or 9 million might be pushing it based on the quality of players. So that's why I think the Bills are out on Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, to your point. So I think that sweet spot is anywhere between $5 and $8 million. So is that Kendrick Bourne? Is that Noah Brown? Is that, to your point, Curtis Samuel or Marquise Brown? Because I think Marquise Hollywood Brown is perfect for this offense, but can you get him for that price? I think my perfect contract would be 2 years, $14 million, AAV of $7 million per year. Who can you get for $7 million per year? Is Marquise Brown going to want more? Is OBJ going to want more? Curtis Samuel?